everyone at the end of the game. So you're kind of the villain in Link's Awakening. It's kind of like this mind trick game. It's very much like almost like a Philip K. Dick novel or something. It was really heady, especially for a Game Boy Advance or Game Boy game at the time from '93. So, but you know, this was Koizumi getting full reign of the story and everything. So he goes off and creates a huge, depressing story. So, you know, that's the Southern Shrine. If you've ever, remember what it says there, like it pretty much lays out to you, hey, you're going to kill everybody. So, pretty much, he stuck around though, because if you remember, there wasn't actually a Zelda game for a long time after Link's Awakening. It was 5 years until Ocarina of Time came out, and he helped around with like Mario 64 and other stuff. But when Zelda 64, was actually shown in 1995, before the system even came out, he was working on Ocarina of Time, as it would come to be known, for a long time. Now, this was the last game that Miyamoto would direct. He supervises stuff and he produces a lot of stuff now, but Ocarina of Time is the last title Miyamoto himself was the actual director on. Because of this, I don't know if people are familiar, Miyamoto does not like text in games. He does not like story, which is almost ironic because he's the one who created Donkey Kong, which gave you an objective. So, for the man who created little quasi cutscenes and rescue, actually giving you something to do rather than just shoot every bug on the screen, it's a little odd for him to say, I hate text, I don't like story, and just get it out of the way, it gets in the way of the game. So, Koizumi loves his story though, and Ocarina of Time, he was the story writer for that as well, and he basically, if you pay close attention, it basically is telling stuff he wrote about in the Link to the Past manual. And he's, you go back to Ganondorf as he's Ganondorf, not Ganon, he's human, you see all this kind of build up, but Miyamoto really didn't like the idea of cutscenes in this game, but there ended up being a lot anyways. What he would do, as he said, is he would hide the story inside the NPC non-player characters so that Miyamoto wouldn't see. He said, I had to be really sneaky because, I really wanted to get story in there, and Miyamoto hated the idea of it, so what I would do is I would have one of the characters you talk to tell you, stuff about it. Clear examples are the Flat and Sharp brothers in the graveyard, if you've ever listened to their story. Hyrule Castle Town Village was kind of expands stuff there's that one crazy guy looking around, he's like, we don't see Gerudos here very much, yada yada. The Sheikah Stones as well are great ways for him to sneak story elements in. I don't know if you guys know about the soldier who dies in the alley in Ocarina of Time. Stuff like that. It was basically him just, being sneaky, trying to get story in. He's also basically responsible for the races such as the Goron, the Zoras as we know them now, and the Gerudo. So this is pretty much all his work if you really think about it. And with Ocarina of Time, if you pay attention to the ending, pretty much Ganondorf says, curse you, Zelda, curse you, Sages, curse you, Link, one day when the seal is broken, I will exterminate your descendants, which is pretty much the intro to Link to the Past. So, it's pretty easy to follow at this point. So, Ijanuma, he stays on the Zelda team, Ijanuma is now the director of the Zelda series, because Miyamoto was done with directing games after Ocarina of Time. So, Koizumi was actually an assistant director in Majora's Mask, if any of you remember Majora's Mask. Now, again, this is not a very Miyamoto-heavy involved game. He was kind of a producer, and you might notice the story again goes into this really twisted, bizarre, dark area. It's kind of almost a trademark of his. Anything that's weird, bizarre, or depressing, it's kind of that's Koizumi's trademark right there. So, Termina, he got to really work in a lot of NPC text because, the character is a little bit more involved in Majora's Mask. You actually kind of get a feel for more of their day-to-day life and all that. So, that's pretty much all there is to say really on Majora's Mask. At this point, N64 was dead. It's 2000, PS2 was new, there's nothing else to do on the system. So basically what happens is Zelda and Mario teams kind of get split up. Because it used to be just Nintendo EAD would do everything one at a time, and that's why N64 games took forever to come out. So what happened is Koizumi actually got put on Mario. So he was not on the Zelda team anymore. And he did alright for himself, but he actually wanted to move to Tokyo. And what happened was Nintendo was like, well, we kind of need a new studio, so they created a thing called Nintendo EAD Tokyo. And And Koizumi is actually in charge of that studio. Their first game was a game called Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, which recently was re-released on Wii. So that was kind of like his first main directorial debut without anybody else like co-directing. And then he did okay for himself. I mean, the last game he directed was something called Super Mario Galaxy. I don't know if you heard about that. So, again, if you pay attention, they introduced a character called Princess Rosalina, who's a pretty cool character. Originally, she was meant to be Peach's sister, and that was kind of like going to be the simple explanation of her. But Koizumi was director, and he kind of got a little involved again. So what ended up happening was he made this incredibly depressing story about Rosalina and her parents dying and her going into space forever. Again, another hallmark of his. It's really bizarre. You go into a Mario game, you he's hopping around like, woohoo! And he goes into a library, my parents were dead and I cried for, days. Okay! Let's create some stars. So, they're actually gonna, he's not directing Super Mario Galaxy 2, he's only producing it. And Miyamoto made a big statement at E3 last month. He's like, I'm making sure he's not sneaking any more story into this game. So I put my foot down on him this time. So, no, that's alright though. Now, pretty much getting back to Zelda, what does this mean for Zelda? Well, it means that basically when Wind Waker came out on GameCube, somebody else wrote it. Now, you might have noticed the Wind Waker's intro is a little bizarre. It talks about Hyrule being flooded, Link disappearing, what's going on here. It was his own spin-off. Anuma even admitted later on that, oh, well, that was the timeline of the adult that Link left, and this is actually documented interviews. So it's supposed to be like the kind of the Back to the Future syndrome where, the future you left at the end of Ocarina of Time was like it went off into its own little separate reality where there was no Link and yada yada. So it kind of gets confusing at this point. And then we get Minish Cap and Four Swords. We get this guy called Vaati who gets just owned by Ganondorf, Four Swords Adventure. So we kind of get into all these spin-offs, Oracle of Ages and Seasons, which were made by Capcom. So basically what it all boils down to is it kind of got more and more confusing over where do these all take place? Where does Oracles take place? Where does Minish Cap take place? Where does Wind Waker? Phantom Hourglass. And Twilight Princess comes out.
Sorry to interrupt. Normally we would start kicking you out, but we're going to go ahead and give you 10 more minutes because how long seating took. After that, we will be closing the panel.
Alright, so basically here comes Twilight Princess. And again, who knows where that takes place? Anuma said it takes place from the Kid universe. So this timeline basically, it's not so much that Nintendo doesn't know what they're doing, it's the guy who wrote it is not working on it. It's kind of like if one of you decided to write the 8th Harry Potter book. Yeah, so basically that's how it works, is one guy has been writing, for 4 Zelda games, was writing this very simple timeline of, okay, here was Gerudo, he got mad, he killed people, he got a Triforce, blah, blah, blah. And kind of just went on from there. And when he left, the kind of story just kind of tumbled down a hill, and just like, well, we're making it up as we go now, it almost seems like. But they do kind of try right now, but instead of trying to say argue amongst yourselves hey, I think it's like this because it said this in this text, and well, this sage said that in Twilight Princess, so therefore it must be during this timeline. If you come to realization, the author of the Zelda canon, as you know it, is not technically writing the Zelda games. So that's why there's a timeline confusion. So it took a little bit of digging, but from now on, you can kind of safely know that, they're only human. Even as good as the Zelda team is, they can't, be everywhere at once, and they can't be aware of everything one other guy wrote at once. So basically, give them a break because sometimes that's just the way things fall.
All right. If anyone has any other questions about stuff we didn't answer, there are 2 mics on each side. We only have a few more minutes, so try and be brief. We'll try and be brief in our answers. So, what? What's a what? I can't actually answer that question. Sorry. Oh, there's a microphone on each